This video brought to you by jadedpainting.com. If you need your miniatures painted to a tabletop standard, check out jadedpainting.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to the final part of this Dark Potential painting tutorial. My name is Jay and I'll be showing you how to paint this winter-themed Petrov-Morales Corporation weapon specialist with a flame launcher. I continued on all of the skin areas by giving them a very watered down REKLAND FLESHSHADE shading. The shading will get in all the recesses and bring out all that nice detail in the face and skin areas. Plus, it will darken the skin tone a little bit, which we'll then highlight over and it'll create some nice variation in color for the skin areas. When the shade was dry, I highlighted all the skin areas with BESTIGOR Flesh, the first flesh color associated with our foundation color. And I just tried to focus on all the raised areas and leave the crevices and the edges with the nice shading. I then gave the skin one more highlight with UNGOR Flesh. And for this one I just focused on the highest points of each area, such as the tops of the ears, the top of the head, and a little bit along the chin line. I then started on all of the metallic areas, which was pretty much just the backpack, the belts and buckles, and the parts of the gun, with shadowed steel, a dark bluish silver color from Reaper. If you don't have shadowed steel, I recommend using Lead Belcher from Games Workshop. I really like shadowed steel because each of the silvers in this triad have a blue tinge to them, so I thought the blue tinge was a really nice match for the winter and blue themes of this model already, so it's a great blue steel approach, and the two really look nice together. Plus, it is also a thin color, so it goes on very well, but doesn't obscure any details. I also used shadowed steel on the very center of each of the discs, and on the face mask, as well as the backpack. Just make sure when painting the disc, focus on the center part and not on any of the blue areas that we've already spent so much time painting. As you can imagine, this step took a little bit of time since a lot of areas on the model are metallic silver. But just take your time, make sure to get a really nice, even base coat of shadowed steel before proceeding to the shading and highlights. I decided just to let the front, the very top, and then the very bottom of the gun be shadowed steel, and the remainder be the gray liner. And finally, I was very careful on the mask not to go over the goggles, and just to get a nice even coat. When the base coat was finished, I gave all of these areas a non-oil shading, which will get in the recesses and give a lot of depth to metallics. I always recommend when using metallics to give them a shade and usually at least one highlight, because otherwise silver areas can appear very flat unless you give them a nice shading. If you want your gun and metallics to appear even dirtier and more worn out, I recommend a 1-to-1 mix of Agrax Earthshade and non-oil. I just wanted them to look tinted and much darker, so I didn't include the Agrax Earthshade in this particular shading. Luckily, shading always takes much less time than the base coat, so this was not a very long step. And when the shading was dry, I highlighted all of the metallic areas with honed steel, the second steel color in this particular Reaper triad. And once again, it also has a nice blue tinge, which matches really well to the winter theme we are going with. For the gun, I basically used an overbrush and dry brush technique, as well as on the face mask. And then for the centers of the discs, I just painted with a fine brush the very center of the disc with honed steel. The goal is to pick up all the nice raised areas and make those details really pop, and leave the recesses shaded. And that's it! You now know how I painted up this weapon specialist in a winter theme. Overall, I really enjoyed painting this model. I think it turned out pretty nicely, and it definitely has a winter and ice theme feel to it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section down below. It wasn't a very hard model to paint up, and it looks really nice, and I think it'll look excellent on the tabletop. So stay tuned for more Dark Potential tutorials. My name is Jay. Until next time, I'm saying, happy painting, everyone.